So this is a typical question we've been going over all week. We'd say this is the start amount. Let's say you had 13 llamas, and you get them to grow by 4%. Notice it's 0.04, and this is growth because you're adding. And then last but not least, this is the years. Now, we've been talking about this for a while, so today should be pretty easy. So now I can kind of use today to review for everything. And this part together, called the common ratio. The growth part is the 0.04. That's the growth part. But 1.04 would be the common ratio. I'm abbreviating with CR. I would allow you to do that too. Common ratio is 1.04. Okay. So now I'd like you to remind me what makes something flip backwards and go from that to that? A negative. Y equals 2 to the x, but where would the negative go? Y equals 2 to the negative x. And that's like negative 1x. And that's like 2 to the negative 1, which is really a half. And that's why it makes sense, because a half is a small number, which makes decay. That's like the price going down on something, or the amount of something going down. Okay, so that was yesterday. And what's today? Applications, so it's going to be pretty easy. All right, so let's just do one more application problem to kind of like warm up your brain. Imagine for a moment you have a car. Do cars normally go up or down in value after you buy a car? Down. Yep. Because it's not new anymore. At the moment you buy it new, it's the coolest because you got to pick the color and it's all spanking new. Everybody write Y equals 5,000. Pause for a second. All right, so we're now going to put something in parentheses. Do you think I should, if the car is going to be going down in value, what should I put in there, Archie? If it's going down in value. Yes, I'm going to put 1 minus something. I'm going to go like that. That's 5% decay. Could I have put 0.95? Yeah, but I like this better because it tells me two things. It tells me the growth or decay rate. And if I put them together, that's 0.95. That's the common ratio. So 0.95 is the CR. There's like a phone noise that I'm hearing. If it's yours, make sure you turn it off. All right, and then last but not least, I need the years up here. So if I put like 5 years, that means I have a $50,000 car. It's going to drop 5% each year for 5 years. And what'll it be worth then? I'd like you to actually do this. So grab your calculator, put this into the calculator, and see what the car is worth 5 years from now. Now, if you're smart, you're not going to type 1 minus 0.05. You're going to put 0.95. They're the same thing. It's faster to type. All right. The reason I think if you've got a calculator that you should use your calculator and not the iPad is because on the test you won't be able to use your iPad. You might as well be used to the calculator way of doing this. But if you don't have a calculator with you, then you need to type it on your iPad. So right now, type it in something. I'm going to pause for a second while you figure out the answer. What is the car worth after 5 years? So we've got our value of our car. After 5 years, it went down. Here's an example of your cheeseburger. Right now, would you agree that you could go to like Culver's and get a pretty good quality cheeseburger, just the burger, for like $7? Does that seem reasonable? It's fast food, but it's, a pretty decent burger. I'm not talking like a McDonald's super cheap one. Would you agree this would be a reasonable cost for a burger? Well, inflation's going to make that go up. When you guys are my age, let's do the math on it and see how much a cheeseburger like that is going to be. Yeah. Now, I'm making up a number there to make it a nice round number, but it's in that neighborhood. Unless you buy their super value, whatever. So this is just like a normal, good quality cheeseburger. Again, it could be more or less based on the store. I picked Culver's just because there's one close to us. So $7 now. I'd like you to do a 4% inflation for, sadly, you guys are going to have to go 40 years to get to be my age. So 4% inflation for 40 years. How much will the burger be then? Start value, 4%. Use your calculator, figure it out. You can do this, and it's kind of cool. You've got a powerful formula in your head now.
What's the time again?
40 years, because that puts most of you pretty close to my age. Go ahead.
Can you help me?
Sure. Let me help you from up here, though?
I don't know how to put it in, but my
Oh, you do?
calculator's not working.
Oh, it's a calculator issue. Yes, I can help with that. I'll pause for a second. Okay, so I know that this is a classic place to make a mistake. Some people put 0.4. That would mean if we had 40% inflation, and the burger gets to be insane cost. But the scary thing is that there are countries that have that high of inflation for real, and the cheeseburger will cost $1 million in their country. I can prove it to you. Venezuela right now has had over 1,000% inflation. I know that seems like, how is that even possible? But it's true. Bottom line is, it's very complicated, but they borrowed a lot of money and then decided to just print money to pay it back, because countries can do that. And you might think that's how you'd normally do it, but that's not how you normally do it. If you just print a ton of money, then all of a sudden your money becomes worthless. If you say that fast, it sounds like worthless. All right, so 0.04 to the 40, and I saw $33. Raise your hand if you had $33. That's rounded, but that's just rounded. If you rounded, it'd be about $33, right? All right. If you're going to round, I believe you. Let's say it's 34. Okay, so then, do you get that it's very possible that you are going to live past my age? It's very possible that you might have $50 cheeseburgers someday, and that's at a cheap restaurant. We're not talking about fancy. Remember, we started with a Culver's burger. Okay, if you wanted an expensive burger, you would have started with a $7. No, sorry, we did. $17 burger. There are $17 hamburgers out there. You go to a nice restaurant and you order the hamburger, it's usually they'll call it something different because they don't want to say hamburger. They'll be like steak burger, whatever. Ground steak, which is pretty dang close to ground beef. But anyways, $17 burger would have increased to, well, all you'd have to do is put that there, and you can see how easy these are to figure out. All right, so then I want to ask you this. How much will $1 million be worth someday? Well, here's how we can do that. $1 million. Would you agree that still a millionaire still means something now? Someday, a millionaire will be like everybody on your block because it won't be worth that much. We all think, oh, millionaire, that's a really rich person. Well, take $1 million, go 1 minus 0.04. What's that? That's your money going down in value each year. The reason that the cheeseburger costs more is because your money isn't worth as much. That's called the inflationary effect on your money. So your money doesn't grow by 4%, it shrinks. So you have $1 million in a suitcase and you got it in your basement and you don't touch it for 40 years. I want to see how much is that $1 million worth now, because it won't be worth as much.
How many years?
40 years, same time period. Over the time the cheeseburger went up in value, if you're a millionaire right now, what's that really going to be like? How much is that really going to be worth then? You break it out of the old musty suitcase. You know what that'd be kind of like? My dad bought his first house for $13,000. That was like how much a house cost, okay? $13,000. Now you can't even get a car for that. But anyway, he bought a house for 13 grand. Can you imagine if he was a little crazy and was like scared of like people stealing his money and stuff, and so he put another 13,000 in a suitcase and buried it in the backyard. Okay? So he'd always have the value of a house in the backyard. Do you get if he digs it up today and it's 13,000, it's not worth what a house is worth? See what I mean? Because the value of the money went down over all that time. Okay, so your $1 million, help me out.
195,360 cents.
Thank you. It's only worth about 200,000. I'm rounding. You get that's worth way less than it used to be? So that's why you don't want to have your $1 million just buried in the backyard. You have to buy something with it that'll go up in value over time. Not cheeseburgers. Old cheeseburgers aren't worth much. But gold, for example, would probably be worth more 40 years from now than it is right now. And it'll kind of try to keep up with the value. So that's what smart people do. They don't just stick their $1 million in a bank and let it just sit there. They want it to grow. They invested in something. So let's do that right now, except most people don't have $1 million, so let's make this more realistic. I think many of you could imagine, even if you worked hard over the summer, my daughter made $2,000 watching people's pets over a summer. I'm not kidding. It's not that hard to do. If you do it for like 60, 70 bucks for a day because they have multiple pets and they'll pay that. You take 60 or 70 bucks and you do that for multiple days, it adds up. Holy cow, she made $2,000 over one summer. So we're gonna say $2,000 and let's say she invests it but let's say she's better than an average investor and she gets 15% interest. 15% interest. So we're getting plus, and you should know what to put. How many years? Let's say she doesn't touch it. She just sticks it in this account, invests it in stocks, and the stocks she picks go up 15% on average for 40 years. 2,000, what you made over one summer, growing at 0.15. Use your calculator. How much is the 2,000 bucks grown to? And I think you'll see why you don't want to stick your 2,000 in a suitcase. You want to invest it. Taya, have you got a number? Okay. Taya, you got it?
Yeah.
What do you got?
535,700.
That is $500,000, boys and girls. All from working one summer watching pets. And waiting 4 years. And yes, you got 15%, which has been done. Warren Buffett is the best investor of all time, and he's averaged more than 15, but he's like the best of all time. So yeah, it'd be very hard to do. He invested in lots of different things, but right now Warren Buffett owns, he's really good at finding stocks that are undervalued at the moment and going, this company should be worth more than this, and then he buys it, and then they do go up because he's good at telling companies that are undervalued. So he bought railroads when railroads weren't cool, and then they went up in value a lot. He bought like a gold stock not that long ago, and then all of a sudden gold has been going up in value, so that's worth more. So he buys things when they're not worth as much as they should be worth.
How did he make his business?
He really did do it almost all by investing. So he started with like $10,000 or something like that, but he would say he started when he was your age and he had a paper route and he took some money from that and he just started really small. Now at the beginning he got a job and then he had more money from this job and then he invested even more, but he was been investing since he was your age and he just got to be the best ever.
I believe he had like a machine business, like he had like pinball machines.
I can't remember. You can look it up though. You can Google it and say Warren Buffett's first business or how did Warren Buffett make his money, but he for sure, he owns, right now he's grown to own railroads and Mars Candy, which is like Snickers bars, and he also owns Geico, and he also owns all these companies, but you don't just buy them all at once. He bought like a little one thing at a time, and eventually now he's got this huge group of companies that he owns through a company called Berkshire Hathaway. But anyway, he did this, and he did it with more than $2,000, and so he also has been adding to it that whole time. And so not just 2,000 once, he's been adding every year, and so he's got $1 bajillion. Okay, so that's an example. Let's actually, I think you're ready. We can go right to the worksheet. So everybody find the worksheet. There's only 6 little problems. Today is an easy day.
I'm gonna cancel it.
So yes, number 6, the last one, just for charity, I canceled off 1 problem. So do 1 through 5. It should have just left it, but I'm trying to keep a tradition of I keep them easy, you keep doing them. For some of you, that's working. And for others of you, it seems like no matter what I do, you won't do the homework anyways. But hey, it's your life, and you get to decide those things. All right, so read me problem number 1. Thank you.
A car is valued at $5,000 and
Depreciates, but I know what you meant.
at a rate of 2.5%.
Oh, here's what a lot of people do. First, they do plus because they're not really incredibly smart, and then they do 0.25. That would be grow by 25%. So what should I put?
0.0. Or wait, no.
Yes, there's a 0.0 coming, but
0.0.
0.025, yes. And then what's in here, though? Remember, it depreciates. That's minus. That's like exponential decay. Okay, and last but not least, years. It must say years. 3 years. Boom. And then it just comes down to, can you put that in a calculator? See how easy this is? Now, one last test question that a lot of you would fail right now. I know you'd know the decay rate. You'd be like, that's this. But what's that thing called where it's all of this together and it's 2 words? This right here, this part.
Common ratio.
Ooh, yes. Somebody would have got it right. The common ratio was the 1 minus the 0.025, which technically would be 0.975. That's what you get when you subtract those. That's called the common ratio. I keep saying that word over and over so that when you see it on a test someday, you won't freak out. That part I shaded in, that's the common ratio. Okay? All right. You've got homework, you got an answer key, and that's all I got for the video for today.